Welcome. In today's episode, you will learn the latest updates from Sydney WorldPride 2023 directly from the CEO. Welcome and welcome back to LOTL and our Queer Conversation series. In today's episode, we'll meet Kate Wickett, CEO of Sydney WorldPride 2023. We'll find out about the highlights of Sydney WorldPride 2023, but also about the women's event you would want to know. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, Silke. How are you going?
Good, thank you. Right, but how did you come to lead Sydney WorldPride?
It actually started about 4 years ago. So prior to being at Sydney WorldPride, I was the co-chair of Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras for a number of years. That's a voluntary role, so I had a day job, but spent a number of hours volunteering for Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. And back in about 2018 we decided to bid to host WorldPride. So during that process, a couple of board members and a couple of volunteers spent our time in our free hours preparing the bid. And we were very fortunate to win. And when we won, I stepped in as the interim CEO while the organisation was set up. And I then went through a recruitment process and was fortunate enough to become the permanent CEO of Sydney WorldPride.
Well, Sydney WorldPride is very, very lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
And I can see already the way Sydney WorldPride is shaping up. But going back to the bid, I'm interested to find out what you think the cutting edge was that the bid was successful.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons actually. We were always the underdog, if you will. Montreal had been preparing their bid for some time longer than us. Their bid budget was far greater than ours, but I think it was really a combination of the commitment from our volunteers around really curating that bid to incorporate all parts of our community in Australia. We particularly led with a First Nations lens across the bid. So travelling around the world in 2018, it became really apparent to me that still a lot of people don't know a lot about Australia, and they certainly don't know about our First Nations people and our history. And so when we brought that to the fore and highlighted that in the bid, I think that really resonated with a lot of people around the world. So it was certainly a key factor, I think, in our success.
I believe so too. When I looked through the program that you've already have up on your website, there's quite a bit scheduled in first for the First Nation. We start off actually with the artwork that was created by a First Nation woman.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, when we set up the organisation, one of the first people I hired, in fact, was a First Nations lesbian who is she's our First Nations engagement manager. And then when we hired our creative directors, everyone told me I was mad to set the organisation up with two creatives, but I felt that it was very important to, again, have a First Nations lens on everything that we do. So we effectively have two creative directors, a First Nations creative director and a festival creative director, and they are co-directors. And so it ensures that we do have a First Nations lens in kind of all of our curation. And the branding is a great story. So there are effectively four elements to the logo or to the brand. The first is that it's round, so it's like a globe, as in a world event. It also pays homage to Mardi Gras and has the Mardi Gras Infinity Love Heart within it. And then it has within that a First Nations designer from Noongar Creative has incorporated our theme, which is Gather, Dream and Amplify. And then, of course, the Pride colours. So they're the four elements, but Jessica Johnson is the designer, and we're just thrilled with the result. Yeah, so we have a First Nations gathering space, which is effectively a space entirely dedicated to Australian First Nations and First Nations people from other countries. And so that will be throughout the festival. We also have a First Nations gala, and that will include a nighttime event, which is effectively going to be some First Nations performers. But as I said, in all of our events, we will have a First Nations element. So, yeah, we're really pleased about that.
Kate, I think this is a first.
No, it's actually, I think it's actually a first of any festival in Australia that I'm aware of, where we have two creative directors with the First Nations. We are not a First Nations event. We are not a First Nations festival. We are a Pride festival. But I thought it was extremely important that we have our First Nations people reflected in what we do and showcase that to the world. And so it was really something that we're very much committed to at Sydney WorldPride.
And talking about the theme, Gather, Dream, Amplify, what's the creative thought behind the theme?
Well, Gather is really about bringing people to Australia, dreaming about what's possible, and then amplifying voices that sometimes aren't heard or are silenced. So it was about bringing people together, celebrating, dreaming about where we could be and looking to the future, and then amplifying and celebrating through arts and culture and discussion.
Tell us about how WorldPride differs from Sydney Mardi Gras.
So Sydney WorldPride differs from Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras because WorldPride is an event that's hosted typically every 2 years. It's like the Olympics. You need to bid to host WorldPride. And unlike Mardi Gras, we have a licence agreement with an organisation called Interpride, the International Organisers of Prides. And there are 4 key events that we must deliver as part of that licence. Opening ceremony, closing ceremony, a human rights conference and a Pride March. So interestingly, while the Pride March up Oxford Street satisfies that criteria, we thought we'd go one step further and close the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So next year during WorldPride we will have the march up Oxford Street and the parade and the floats that are all there, but we're also going to be going across the Sydney Harbour Bridge the following weekend. So yeah, it's really exciting.
That will go global, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I can imagine the images now of our community walking across the bridge, being very visible and asserting our rights, which is just fantastic.
Makes a lot of sense for Sydney WorldPride. So there would have been a lot of hurdles to jump this, to make this happen. So we've got the opening and closing ceremony. We've got the Human Rights Conference. This is like, how will that merge with Mardi Gras? Because Mardi Gras has events throughout it. So which one is what? Yeah,
it's a great question. Effectively, all of the Mardi Gras events that currently occur will occur next year. And we are running Sydney WorldPride over the same footprint. But effectively, all of the Mardi Gras events subsume up into Sydney WorldPride. So for the average punter coming along, they will attend Sydney WorldPride. And for those who don't typically know what a Mardi Gras event is, those Mardi Gras events will be co-branded with Sydney WorldPride. So Mardi Gras has 3 major events. It has Fair Day, the parade, and then the after party, and then it has some other events around that. They will occur, but Sydney WorldPride has about 14 major events. So again, they'll subsume up into WorldPride and hopefully work seamlessly.
And the dates are Mardi Gras dates, early
the same
March.
Mardi Gras, so flag raising at the Town Hall on the 17th of February. What we've done though, because we know that there'll be a number of internationals come, is we've tried to bookend all of the major events in a 9-day period. So the opening ceremony is on Friday the 24th of February, and then a number of the key events during that period, including the Human Rights Conference, and then the closing ceremony will be on Sunday the 5th of March.
Tell us about the Human Rights Conference.
So the Human Rights Conference, as I mentioned, is a key deliverable under the contract with Interpride. But we've effectively made the Human Rights Conference our cornerstone or our centrepiece of the festival. So it's a 3-day conference at the ICC. We're basing it on effectively a conference called South by Southwest. We want it to be interactive and immersive. We obviously want it to be very serious because the content is serious, but we want to make that content and the human rights discussion accessible to a number of people. So it won't be your typical keynote plenary breakout. It won't be a more academic style. It'll be making that very difficult and complex content accessible to a number of people. So you can expect government, you can expect politicians, community activists, civil society, celebrities. We hope it's going to be a really important discussion, but also an entertaining and thought-provoking discussion.
Will it be available on a digital platform?
Absolutely.
Access?
So the entire conference will be available online, and we're making that available so for those who either can't attend in person for any reason, economic or for safety reasons, geopolitical, people can watch the Human Rights Conference in the safety of their own home.
Great. So now let's talk about women's events.
Yeah, great. So I'm actually really thrilled about this. I'm actually the first female CEO of WorldPride in its 22-year history, so something I'm very proud of. But certainly when I went to New York WorldPride in 2019, I was a little bit disappointed about the lack of female parties and entertainment. So we have organised a 2,500 person women's event during WorldPride. I can't tell you the location or the venue yet, but we're just about to sign off on the venue. But effectively, it will be within the one venue, there are multi-stages and different spaces for women. So it's going to be quite the event. I'm very, very pleased about it. And we're very fortunate that we have a couple of female performers and DJs helping us curate that event. So there'll be all different types of music. So you can imagine there might be some acoustic music, but there'll also be DJs as well. So something for everyone, I hope. Our women's event will be an event for everyone, but it will obviously have a significant focus on women. So curated by women with women performers. And I know that there will be some other pop-ups that will be for women throughout the 17-day festival.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be really great.
Like, you know, those are kind of key events you keep with you. So I'm sure that the opening, closing ceremonies and the March over the Harbour Bridge will be one of those events that people will carry with them.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's a real legacy for Sydney, but also for Australia. So making our community really visible.
Mm. Now, WorldPride always has scholarships attached to it, and the same with Sydney WorldPride.
Yeah, so we are going to be running a scholarship program, and we've actually been working with DFAT on some of that. So we'll be running a scholarship program, particularly for people to attend the Human Rights Conference. So effectively, our program should be open towards the end of July. It'll be on our website, but effectively people can apply to attend WorldPride, but particularly, as I mentioned, the Human Rights Conference. There'll be a specific focus on the Indo-Pacific and the Asia-Pacific region. This is the first time that WorldPride's ever been hosted in the Southern Hemisphere, and so we're very keen to bring people from around Australia and from the Indo and Asia-Pacific. So there'll be a small fund for people applying from that area. There'll also be a fund for people applying more globally, and then of course more locally. So whether it be Sydney or say, you know, Perth or Darwin, for example. So that will be announced towards the back end of July, but something that we're very committed to.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the Asia-Pacific region, and some of the regions still struggling with equality. How do you think WorldPride will be beneficial for that journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's still some of the most egregious crimes against our community in the Asia-Pacific and in the Asia regions. Some of my team or our team will be attending various prides and engagements within Asia and the Pacific over the coming months. We'll be promoting WorldPride, but also promoting our scholarship program. I think it's a really great opportunity for Sydney and Mardi Gras WorldPride to assist in shining a light on some of those challenges and some of those difficulties that people face within the region, and advocate for change. And so, as I mentioned, we really want to shine a light on the disparity or lack of equality in those regions. I mean, Australia still has a way to go, Not all of our laws are fair and equal for our community, but certainly things like marriage equality or, like human rights, basic human rights are something that we need to work towards.
How can people get involved with WorldPride right now? I believe there is a call out right now where people can pre-register.
Yes, so I would absolutely implore people to jump onto the website and sign up. So we have been and will be doing a lot of communication through our EDMs and through Instagram. So you can either sign up via Instagram or Facebook or via our website. It's very easy, and we will continue to send you information and updates of everything from ticket sales to the scholarship fund to performers and different talent that might be announced. So please jump on Sydney WorldPride. And
volunteers. I mean, LOTL audience are big volunteers in community groups. Do you still look for volunteers?
Absolutely, and that's actually an excellent question. We'll be working hand in glove with Mardi Gras and volunteers. As you know, Mardi Gras has a huge number of volunteers every year. It's about 1,600. So we will be working with Mardi Gras to effectively join our volunteer teams for next year. We do know that we're going to need more than we've previously had, but that's a great example of Mardi Gras and WorldPride working very closely together and collaborating on the volunteers. So the experience for those attending hopefully will be seamless.
So for people to find out any information on the scholarship program, volunteering, signing up for e-news, your website?
Yes, jump on the website and once you sign up, all of that information about volunteers, scholars, all of those updates will be sent out. We do post regularly and we do post regular updates, so it's the best way to keep in touch.
And what's the website address and the social media?
Social media is the website is www.sydneyworldpride.com, and our social media is Sydney WorldPride, both on Instagram and on Facebook.
Thanks, Kate, for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Silke, and thanks for the opportunity.
Like that. We the people.
If you enjoy queer conversation, make sure to follow our channels. You can find more queer content on LOTL.com, and you can browse through our 30-year digital archive of LOTL magazines. My name is Silke Bader, and thank you for your company.